Welcome back to the Artefactors Union. I am your host and foreman, Douglas Scoundrels, and today we have a special box, the Vernon and Welles model for the Explorer Society, a versatile model. No keywords, but anyone can take it without a tax. This is a notorious model. It is weird and difficult and a pretty big pain, but I should hopefully make that a little bit easier for you. So here's our artwork. We've got Vernon, I believe, is the gentleman with the telescope on his goggles, and Welles is the lady driving the machine, and if you look closely, is very obviously a time machine reference. By the way, that's Jules Verne and H.G. Wells. Anyways, that's the artwork. Here is the render, and now I'll show you in the instructions, but the huge weird thing about this is that technically the only thing touching the ground in this artwork is the two wheels here. This big thing is, I guess, not supposed to be touching the ground, and also only connected to the cart, the chair, whatever, by this cable on the back, which we're just going to ignore those instructions because that's going to make it way too flimsy. But anyways, the instructions are quite long, so I will split them up into two images. We'll go ahead and look at them, and then I will explain what we're going to do, all right? All right. Okay, here are our sprues, and I did things a little bit out of order. Whoops. Not that big of a deal, especially since we only got one model, and it's this big one. All right, order of assembly. We're going to grab the basis for the cart. We're going to effectively build the entirety of the cart minus the wheels, because the wheels really suck. And then we will add Vernon and Welles onto it. They will not be the last step of building the cart, but they'll be closer to the end than the beginning, I guess. Once the entirety of the cart is assembled, we can do the bits for the big wheel, which I think might just be these 3 bits. But once those are all assembled, we will attach it to the cart, and then lastly do the wheels, because again, the wheels have very, very, very tiny connection points. You see, this is the axle for that, and it's got a little tiny connection point, and if you flip it over, we look at the wheels, they have really tiny connection points. So those are going to be the last things we glue on so they don't accidentally get popped off during the assembly process. But okay, I'm going to grab the base of the cart. We'll add this rail thing on the bottom. We'll add the chair, and then the seat for the chair, the steering column, I think that is, plus part of what would effectively be the dashboard. Then this piping and the exhaust. And I think actually when we do this bit, maybe our second or third step, just because it goes behind the chair. It'd be better to go in before we put the chair on. But anyways, at that point, we'll go ahead and assemble Welles. She'll be sitting in the chair, she'll be steering, and then we will assemble Vernon, add him onto the cart after we put Welles on there, and then we will do the steering wheel, which is this bit. And I think at that point that'll be everything except for the wheels, and then we can again do the big wheel thing, the telescope, the cable, and then the actual cart wheels after that. All right. Long rant to say we cut out this bit, and then let's see, that's A3 and A5 after that. All right, we got the base for the cart. A5, I believe it was, is just going to fit right in here. You can see big hole, little hole matches up with well, that's upside down. Big tooth, little tooth. Okay. Next is going to be A14, that piece. And our connection point is right here. That is going to fit right in there. Okay. Just look at it on all sides. Okay, next is just going to be our chair. which is going to be A1, and then it is going to fit into this big hole. Okay, just make sure it is pressed all the way down, because some things are going to be built upon it. Alright, next is going to be the seat, which will just pretty much cover this area, and that is going to be A13. Okay, now quickly we will do the steering column, which will have to fit in this sort of crevice. I don't think it's going to be too hard, but if we're wrong, well, let's hurry up and make sure that we can pull this thing apart without doing too much damage to it. But right, that bit is going to be A9, and this is the part that will be, jammed into the ground. This long tooth is actually going to be our only real connection point. There is nothing that is that hole shape. That's just empty space. Okay, didn't require ripping anything out. It just slid into place. Make sure it is a really nice, solid connection. And if it's out of place, it'll be sitting up a little higher than it should be. And you can you'd be able to see the connection point on the bottom. Right. Okay, that's enough kind of rambling from me. Next will be the dashboard, sort of. That's going to connect to our steering column. Maybe steering column is not what I should be saying. It is the column thing that this attaches to, more or less. So this is what we're looking at from the top. This will eventually be the steering wheel, so that's kind of keep that in mind for our orientation. This will connect effectively on the corner right there. Right before and after, notice the nice seam, and it all becomes that sort of almost cylinder of the dashboard. Okay, our next bit, and the last bit before we start putting the people together, is going to be A12. Oh, the last bit we just did is A8 up here. So now we're going to do A12, which is going to fit along the right side. Going to attach in there, run along here, and then the exhaust is going to fit right in there. Another before and after. You will need to hold this part up against the dashboard, otherwise it will just have its own little gap. It'll cure just fine connected to it, but you're going to have to press and hold it. It won't sit in there by itself. All right, next we'll go ahead and do Miss Welles. So we've got body, 2 legs, 2 arms, and her head. We'll grab the body, we'll do both legs very quickly, and then we'll plop her down on the chair. This leg is going to be attaching eventually to this right here, and her left leg will be in this little pocket where I guess the accelerator is. And then her left arm will be holding onto the back of the seat, and the right arm will be holding onto the steering wheel, which we will do later. Alright, so let's grab the body and add C2 and C3 the legs. Alright, C4 the body, C2 the right leg is next. Alright, that looks pretty good. Next we'll do C3, the left leg. Change of plans, I think it'll be easier to attach her to the seat first, and then do the left leg, so we can see a nice connection point right here, as well as the edge of the skirt. And this is that piping we just added, the frame, and then of course this foot will be touching that rod sticking out. So her foot will be rested on this, her calf will be attached here, and her butt right there, as well as the edge of the skirt. Alright, actually not too hard to get like that. Her heel specifically is touching that pedal, that rod thing. But now we can slip her left leg into that hole, and then her foot should be inside here. Not too bad. Even easier if you've got some Nice tweezers. Alright, let's go ahead and do her left arm now, which is going to be... I lost the sprue. It'll be C6. It should be resting on the rim of the chair, somewhere around there. Alright, shoulder looks good. There's no, like, connection point on the hand or the edge of the chair, so it'll just rest on there, although I did also cement that down just to be safe. Next will be C1, the head, which will just, you know, go right in the head spot. Whoops. The connection will allow you to twist the head pretty significantly. I'm just make sure she's looking forward, watching the road. It should be good. Alright, next we're going to assemble the entirety of Mr. Vernon himself. Alright, so we got a body, B5, and we'll do the unattached leg, B1, followed by B5, that's B6, the right arm, B2, that B4, the left arm, and we'll combine B2 and B3, which is the head and the telescope, the lens on his face, and then add that to the body, and then we'll point out exactly where he is supposed to be touching the cart. Actually, we'll change that up ever so slightly. We're just going to add B1, the leg, and B6, the right arm, because those are what are connecting him to the cart, and then we'll add the body to the cart so that we are sure that all of our spots line up and he is solidly on there. And then we can actually go ahead and do... No, let's finish him, and then we'll go ahead and finish Welles. Alright, so we'll just make sure that the body fits nicely on the cart, and then we'll add the left arm, the head, and the telescope. And I made a mistake, so I'm going to point it out to you. There is actually a connection point on his heel that I accidentally shaved most of it off. I apologize for that. But that is what is going to fit right here. Oops. Right there. So try and keep that intact. Okay, B5 the body, now add B1 the left leg. Okay. Seam looks good. Check the butt too. Next will be B6 the right arm. Just gonna fit, you know, right there in the shoulder. Okay, that also looks pretty good. So where is he going to fit on this card? Well, I pointed out where his left heel is going to be. You can also sort of see the outline of the foot. The right hand is going to fit right here. This is the outside, so I think this would be the pinky. And then his left foot is going to be kind of tucked back here in this corner. There isn't really a connection point, but just the flat... the balls of his feet are going to be flat on the surface of the cart. Alright, attach that now. Okay. See, the back foot is planted right there. The front foot is just inside of the pipe of the frame. And then the right hand is on the ground. Tweezers, again, good for just squishing that into place and getting everything as nice as possible. All right. Next, actually, let's go ahead and put his head together. So this is going to be B2 and B3. B3 is going to fit right here on the side of his head. You see that connection point. Okay, we've got his head, and the two telescoping lenses things are going to fit kind of like this, with the small one being over his left eye and the big one not. So yeah, pretty much like that. Alright, Vernon's head is all done. Let's plop that on his shoulders. Alright, he's more or less staring straight forward. So now we can do his left arm. Let's make sure that it is pointing forward. Alright, he is all done, so now we can get to fixing Miss Welles. I think we're going to attach our steering wheel first, which will attach to his arm here. Actually, no, that is bad, because I don't think there is a specific spot for it to connect, or at least not an obvious spot on it. No, there's not. So actually what we're going to do is we're going to clip this out, and then we're going to attach it to her arm. That notch taken out of the wheel is going to be where her hand fits. It's not going to be a very solid connect. I just pointed to her shoulder. Her hand's down here. It's not going to be a very solid connection, but after that, we are going to jam it so that this is fitting into her shoulder. The steering wheel is attached to this actual steering column, as well as his arm. All right, so let's attach those two bits together first. Okay, we are staring at it from the perspective of the driver's seat. Her hand will go in here, and there is actually a very, very tiny connection, sort of ridge thing in here, which would actually probably give us the orientation we needed instead of attaching her arm to it, but I think that will still be fine, so we're going to go ahead and flip this and attach her arm now to the steering wheel. Alright, I'm going to call that good enough. Now we can attach the steering wheel to the steering column. Vernon's arm and, Vernon's arm and Wells's shoulder, did all that stuff. So points of contact are going to be, or points of connection, shoulder right there, this nubbin, and this curve on his arm. Alright, I changed my mind. I apologize, but yeah, adding the steering wheel on is how we're going to have to go. So I attached it to Vernon's arm and the steering column, fitting it into that little hole in the back of the wheel. And now we can go ahead and add Wells's arm to the steering wheel here and her shoulder. And it's actually quite good. I guess this is the big measure of whether or not you put everything in the exact place it's supposed to be, but we got a good seam here and a good seam here. They look good from the front. Obviously just as needed if you are slightly out of whack, nudging things as you see fit. Alright, we are done with the cart. So now we can talk about our big wheelie thing. We'll just cut it out, attach the telescope to it, and then the cable to the telescope, and we'll figure out positioning after that, alright? Alright, here is our big wheel. Our telescope is going to fit right in there and also connect to this arm, hydraulic arm, I think. And that connection point is going to be right here. If you saw previously, it is semicircle shaped, so there's only one way it's going to go in, and the additional connection point is going to be right there. Okay. Our tube, pipe, whatever thing, the wedge end is going to jam right in there, and we are not going to connect the other end to the cart quite yet, so this part. Okay. Make sure that cures solidly. Alright, set that aside, and we will finally do the wheels. Kind of hard to tell which side is which, but you see this extra part of the wheel well that is pointed, that is on the back side of the wheel. So this would then be our right wheel, and then this one would be our left wheel. Let's very, very gently connect them to the cart. A2, our right wheel is going to fit right on this tiny little peg. There we go, and try to match it to the render. Now it can stand freely, but I recommend you just attach it to the bottom of the cart there. It will not be going straight, but it's a lot safer, less likely for the wheel to pop off. Don't really have that luxury with A6, our left wheel, so we're just going to put it on there and be very, 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 very gentle. Alright, and if these ever do pop off, just go for the super glue. Don't keep trying to use plastic glue. Alright, now that that's done, we'll actually just go ahead and attach the cart to the base first. Technically it is supposed to be leaning back ever so slightly, so I would recommend setting the little sled bit on the lip of the base. Obviously I'm not sure if you can do that if you have the base filled in, but you can see the wheel's already bending. Dang it. Right, glue it. Okay, now that we have that, we can figure out a giant telescope wheel. The only really important thing you need to do is make sure that this tube connects to this spot here on the back of the cart. And then I would glue it to the bottom of the base, even though I'm not entirely sure if it's actually supposed to be a propulsion wheel or not. It should connect there, but I do not think you can actually like connect it to the cart and this tube still fit where it's supposed to be. So we'll be sitting right next to the cart, but not quite touching it. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. All right, it's connected on the back, and that one spot down there, give it a relatively solid connection, and it very closely matches the render and the instructions, so I'm not going to complain, but they're all done. Let's review. Vernon and Welles is not focused on the camera. Come on, there we go. Vernon and Welles is done. It is a difficult model, one of the most difficult models in the game. I got lucky and a lot of the stuff lined up correctly, but the big pain points is really getting Vernon and Welles to sit on the cart like they're supposed to, and everything attaching correctly. More or less exactly how the order I did it in is probably your best bet, with the exception of being the steering wheel and Wells's arm. But I think you could probably figure that out, that I did that order incorrectly. But overall, yeah, quite difficult. Nothing that's super duper tiny. It really is just assembly order and alignment, and you know, just being a few millimeters off one way or another will make nothing line up correctly. It sucks. And then, of course, the stupid big wheel not attaching to the cart at all. And the other smaller back wheels also being pain. There's a lot to complain about this Mini. I like the reference at least. But anyways, this should be very helpful to a lot of people, and I didn't mean to zoom out, but whatever. I've been your foreman, Douglas Scoundrels, helping you build a better Malifaux. Onward.